This week on the NESN Soccer Show, Marcus and I discuss the 2018 Champions League final between Liverpool and Real Madrid. We go in-depth on key players, talk about legacy for both Real Madrid and Liverpool, as well as what to expect from Cristiano Ronaldo and Mo Salah. Finally, we'll wrap up with a Marcus rant on new Arsenal manager Unai Emery.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to the NESN Soccer Show. I'm Mark, here with Marcus. The Champions League final is finally almost here on Saturday, 2:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States. It'll be played in Kiev, Ukraine. It'll be on Fox in English. Stream it live on Fox Sports Go. A lot of people talking about Cristiano Ronaldo and Mo Salah, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper than just that. But Liverpool versus Real Madrid. Real Madrid in their third straight Champions League final. That's kind of the stuff of legend. But Marcus, we're finally here. A long time ago, we broke down the Champions League group by group, way back in, I don't know, October, September. So
that might have been August.
Yeah,
September.
When it's finally, the dust has settled more or less, and here we are. What do you think?
About what?
Just about the matchup initially, and your feelings on Liverpool being in the final.
You want to know what I think?
Yeah.
I've been asking the same question, which is, what is Liverpool doing in the final?
I don't know.
Not that they don't deserve to be in the final. They do, having progressed this far, but I didn't see it coming. I remember this at the start of the season. If you had asked me if Liverpool was going to be in the final, I would have laughed at you.
Sure.
I've lost money on Liverpool's Champions League run, and I'm still, here we are almost on the eve of the game, and I still don't understand how it happened based on what we knew back in August.
Sure. I kind of see them as somewhere between pure Cinderella story and maybe we shouldn't be quite so surprised. I mean, they are one of the biggest clubs in the world, playing one of the best leagues in the world. They have an incredible attack, but I think it's all kind of come together for them. Meanwhile, Real Madrid sort of taking care of business, and taking care of business probably against tougher teams in the knockout stages than
certainly
Liverpool had to face. And we'll get to who Liverpool faced, but Real Madrid took down PSG, albeit without Neymar, I believe, in the second leg.
Yeah.
And then they took down Juventus, which is no easy task, and Bayern Munich, which despite injuries was still no easy task. And having been to this third straight Champions League final, they are battle-hardened, they are proven, they are much more than just Cristiano Ronaldo. It's an incredible amount of experience. I mean, nobody else in the world has more experience than Real Madrid right now.
Yeah, Real Madrid, no surprise that they are back in the final just based off what they've done before. A little surprised based off of how they have played over the course of the season. They finished third in La Liga, and definitely a drop-off in their performances over the course of the marathon 10-month season.
Right.
But we're talking about, and this is really the thing to remember about the Champions League is that there's two phases. There's the first phase, which take place before the turn of the year, which is the group stage, just kind of going through, where a team like Real Madrid can be playing at 80% of their ability and still reach the knockout round fairly easily. But then when you get to the second half of the competition, which is the knockout phase, that's what Real Madrid has been able to do, and they mailed it in La Liga back in January or February.
I mean, they finished, I think, like 20 points back of Barcelona.
Yeah, so it's almost like they can conserve their energy or really, gear themselves up for these big Champions League games, and then ease off the throttle a little bit when they return to domestic action because they weren't really playing for any major trophy. So, and Liverpool is also, they were out of the title race before Christmas. So it's almost like these two teams, to go back to my first question about Liverpool, they could really get themselves up for a game here every few weeks, a big knockout stage game, and then kind of return to whatever inconsistency they had shown in their domestic play.
When we were talking yesterday about what we wanted to talk about today, we wanted to find a weakness of Real Madrid.
Sure.
And it's like, well, what are you really coming up with when you think about an actual weakness? But so two-time defending champions, third in La Liga, but apathy with a question mark you have?
Yeah, I put that in.
Yeah.
When you won 3 Champions Leagues, as this group has done, how do you maintain that hunger? It's a problem that winners in every sport wrestle with, which is how do you keep your foot on the gas when you've already reached your destination 3 times? And that's, I think something maybe they struggled with this year where, put it this way, the part of the reason that they are in the Champions League final playing as relatively poorly as they have this season is the fact that this is really the only thing they were playing for. And this is to save Zinedine Zidane's job.
Which is crazy to really think about.
Yeah, that's what's required at Real Madrid. It's winning everything every year, or at least looking like you're contending to do it. Yeah, it's almost like that apathy didn't quite sink in because the Champions League was so important to this group because of how badly they started in La Liga. And, they went out of the Copa del Rey fairly early too. So, yeah, maybe apathy was the only thing I could identify as a weakness. Defensively, they still have maybe some questions. Sergio Ramos is all world still, but Rafael Varane, is he going to be as sturdy is he going to be the great player that everybody expected him to be 3 or 4 years ago when he first arrived at Real Madrid and started pushing for playing time? This is now his time. Pepe's gone. This is his time to really shine. And what a challenge he's going up against in this Liverpool team.
I'm so excited for this final in particular, and I think I mentioned it on last week's show that whenever you get to like a World Cup final or a Champions League final or this deep, there tends to be a sit back and defend, nobody wants to make a mistake approach by both teams, and it can make the final kind of really lackluster and not very exciting.
Yeah.
But I think that Real Madrid and Liverpool both have such high-powered offenses, and their defense in both sides could sort of use some work, that I think inevitably we're going to have a very exciting match with a lot of opportunities both ways, and we'll see how many goals actually go in the net. But I think there will be no sort of, waiting for much to happen. There's going to be excitement, I think, right from the get-go.
Yeah.
But that sort of brings us to our key players for Real Madrid. And before we get to that, just because of who we both picked, we can't go so far without talking about Ronaldo a little bit.
Fine.
So I think over the course of the last few years, but maybe it's finally definitely noticeable that Ronaldo, his playing style has sort of changed, and he's a different player. I guess he's a little older, and he can't be running up and down the wings the whole game anymore.
Yeah.
And he's kind of almost, he's just always in the box, people sending the ball into him, making quick moves, quick cuts, back of the net, front of the net. And what's very important for him at this stage in his career is who is playing up top with him.
Right.
And that's what brings us to our key players. For me, it's Karim Benzema, mainly because I think he's the one that's going to be starting alongside Ronaldo in the final. And it might not even be something that is in the stat sheet, but you're going to see the connection between Ronaldo and Benzema or whoever's up there with him. And if it's connecting and if it's going well, which it probably will be, then you're going to see a ton of chances for Ronaldo and or Benzema. And that's why I think that Ronaldo will end up with a goal or maybe two if they sort of not necessarily fall to his feet, but like if the game goes his way. But I really don't expect him to score.
Cristiano?
I know. I expect Benzema to score and maybe score twice.
Wow.
I don't think it's that crazy to say Ronaldo won't score.
Yeah, he's only done it 15 times in the competition.
And I don't think it'll be a knock on him. It'll just be maybe even a mistake by Liverpool with the amount of attention that he may receive. And they leave too much open space for other players. I don't know. I want to make a bold prediction, Marcus.
Oh, okay. Ronaldo's not going to score. Benzema will score twice, is what you're telling me.
Something like that. We'll see if I eat my words.
Well, let me tell you, I'm not sure Benzema's going to start this game. Our key players, we're butting heads early.
Yeah,
which is fine.
It's good.
Gareth Bale.
Who's going to sit there and say that's outrageous? I think it's
Well, we don't know if Zidane will start with Bale, Benzema, and Ronaldo, or if he'll go with two up top and Isco behind them, where the second, if it's two up top, you would expect it to be Ronaldo and Benzema. Except Bale, since returning to the starting lineup or returning to the field in anger in late February, he's been on absolute fire. And I'm just looking at his stats here. He's played on the left, on the right, played as a center forward, played as a second striker. In his league games, let's say the last 13 league games, he's missed 2. That would be last 11. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 goals in his last 11 league games.
That's good.
Bale is on fire. And I see him causing Liverpool just the most problems because Liverpool's defense, they've, since Virgil van Dijk arrived, and we're getting to the Liverpool section now, but, since Van Dijk arrived, they've been better defensively, but they're still suspect defensively. And they haven't gone up against a player who is as explosive and talented as Bale is.
That's fair. I think
as explosive. They face some talent, but their road in the knockout rounds, Porto, Man City, Roma, none of those teams have a player like Bale in their team.
Right.
Man City's forward line, they're smaller guys, a little bit more, technical and dribblers, big, powerful, and explosive.
It is worth noting that somebody, and I am not saying that he's on the same level, but Edin Dzeko of Roma is a tall, powerful forward.
No.
And they did surrender goals to him, is what I'm saying. So that's a bad sign.
No.
I'm agreeing with you.
No.
I'm just saying,
No. We're not putting Dzeko and Bale in the same. No.
I'm not putting him in the same category. I'm just saying style.
No.
Anyway, I think this does bring up a good topic. Before we dive into Liverpool, Zidane versus Klopp, the kind of coach storyline, two obviously of the biggest name coaches in the world.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest question for Zidane is the Benzema versus Bale, who's going to play, maybe at what point do you bring them on as subs. All of that will play into how the match plays out. But do you think either one has the advantage of the coaching technical standpoint?
No, not really. Well, I give Zidane a slight edge.
I think so too.
Only because his
We finally agree.
in-game management, Real Madrid's road to the final has required required Zidane to be at his absolute best.
Yeah.
Because Real Madrid's gotten themselves into some sticky patches against PSG, against Juventus. PSG, they went down. Juventus, they only almost messed it up at home. And Bayern Munich at halftime of these key games, Zidane's not shy about putting on Lucas Vazquez or Marco Asensio at halftime and just changing the entire flow of the game. Mm-hmm. It's required him to do that. Otherwise, they go out and he gets fired. For Klopp, Liverpool blew away Porto in 10 minutes. 10 minutes out of the 180, it was really over. Man City, first half of that first game, it's over. Roma,
first half of the first game.
First half of the. So Liverpool's road to the final hasn't required Klopp to be as, let's say, hands-on with.
For sure.
During the game. So I give a slight edge to Zidane.
Do you want to talk about legacy after we talk about Liverpool, or do you want to do Real Madrid's legacy right now and how this will affect their legacy?
Sure, let's go into it.
All right. So they're going for their third straight Champions League final. Now, I forget exactly when, but it was a long time ago that anybody won 3 straight Champions League or European Cup finals in a row. Where does this put them as an all-time team? And we don't even have to just keep it to Champions League or European play, but just as far as any team over the stretch of, say, 3 to 5 years of play, if they win this game, does it put them at another level higher? Does it really not matter all that much if they lose because of how much they've already accomplished? Just go with it from there.
Real Madrid, they are on the cusp of winning their 4th Champions League title in the last, 5 years?
I think so.
Yeah, 4th in 5 years. The only other team to have such a run of success, and we're talking about 4 or more, is Real Madrid when they won it in 1956, 1957, 1958, 1959, and 1960.
Yeah.
They pretty much invented the European Cup as a / Champions League as something to be coveted and won. Should this group win on Saturday, they will be up there with Real Madrid's greatest ever era. Period. They are, it's that close. And I guess I'll get into more on the prediction, but yes, this is what they are playing for. I mean, this group of players, they've already won 3 times. Their individual legacies are secure. They'll be, welcome at any Real Madrid game in the future, going forward forever. They're already there, but they're really chasing history, and it's chasing a history that only their club can match.
I think, just to put it in perspective as I look at the list now, Ajax won 3 straight from 71 to 73. Bayern Munich won 3 straight from 74 to 76. And then Liverpool won 3 out of 5 in 1977 and 78, and then 1981.
Real Madrid's already at the level of those 3 teams you've mentioned.
And something that you've brought up.
And those are the teams that, if anybody ever talks about the greatest sides ever, and maybe we can put Barcelona between 2009 and 2015 in that list, but those are the only other ones that we speak of when we say who are the best teams of all time.
Yeah.
So to answer your question about legacy, yeah, they're playing to be arguably the best team of all time.
Yeah, and I think something that you've talked about in the past, the difficulty, or that maybe it's a little more, or it's more difficult now, certainly than in the 50s, but also as recently as, say, like the late 70s, and that the competition is much more even and level across Europe, certainly, as more clubs are able to, get on a similar level. Real Madrid is still the highest, but other clubs are able to recruit and train and, take deeper measures into how they develop their club than just, having their academy that's whatever it is. And it just makes it all the more difficult and impressive that Real Madrid is on the run that they're on.
Yeah.
But enough about Real Madrid. On to Liverpool. How did they get to the final? We've said it. They beat Porto, they beat Man City, they beat Roma. Controversy versus Manchester City and Roma as far as refereeing goes, but
let it go, Mark.
I'm just pointing it out. And
they conceded 5 goals in the first half of the first game.
Yes, it was a lot of goals.
Let it go.
Only 4 in the first half, or no, it was 5.
Whatever.
But their weakness is their defense. It's been the story all season long. It has only become more highlighted as they've gone further in Champions League. But their obviously biggest storyline, and in case you've been living under a rock, Mo Salah has become, a top 5 player in the world, to say the least, or attacking player in the world, and basically can't stop scoring goals, and the Champions League has been part of that. Along with a very substantial supporting cast as far as the attack goes, I think that's what makes this final so interesting. As I said before, I think both teams are going to have chances, and sometimes the ball just goes a certain way, and who knows, maybe Liverpool can go up 2-0 early in the game. But the weaknesses, as we said, the defense, but also the inexperience.
Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
I'm going to let you finish. But
Yeah.
Liverpool scored a Champions League record 46 goals so far this season. How many of those goals have been scored in bunches, like an outburst of 3 in 30 minutes or something like that, to that effect? Over the course of the Champions League campaign, I would say a lot. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Liverpool, they explode on teams fall apart, and then they, add another goal and another goal and another goal, and before you know it, you're down 4 and you don't know what hit you. What are the chances of that happening against Real Madrid? Because if Liverpool scores once in the second minute and then has to manage through the game for the next 60 minutes before they get another look, that could be, I could see that being really problematic for Liverpool.
I guess that takes us back to the sort of Zidane versus Klopp question.
Experience versus inexperience. And what you were going to go to next was Liverpool's inexperience. And, I see that as a big weakness, where their 3-man midfield, Jordan Henderson, James Milner, Gini Wijnaldum, going up against Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, and Casemiro, looks like a mismatch.
A little bit, yeah.
When we're talking about experience deep in the Champions League, one team has it, the other team doesn't. But they're here. But
one game as well.
Yeah, but defense, inexperience, and then the other potential tripwire I see for Liverpool is they've been off since May 13th.
That's a long time.
They went to Spain and had a warm weather training camp for a while, but they haven't played a serious game. It'll be 2 weeks by the time the game comes along. That could be, these guys are used to playing 1 game a week, sometimes 2.
Especially this season.
Yeah, I see them being fit, but sharpness, I'm going to have to question heading into the game.
I see all your points, and you kind of convinced me that
good
that if they don't get some sort of explosion, and this game is even at like a 1-1 tie, maybe as it gets later and later, and we're into the 70th minute and so, then more and more the advantage is slipping to Real Madrid.
Yeah,
and that's assuming that Real Madrid isn't already up a couple of goals. But that kind of brings us to our key players, because the attack is going to be the attack is set, and it can't really get much better than Liverpool's attack.
Yeah.
But the big question has been defense, and we mentioned Virgil van Dijk, the transfer from in January, and how the defense has been a little bit better since he's gotten there.
Mm-hmm.
But Trent Alexander-Arnold is a 19-year-old right back for Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
Born in Liverpool, been in the system since 2004. He's born in 1998. How does that make you feel? But since January 1st, in the Premier League, he started 12 games, and while he's been on the field, Liverpool has surrendered 6 goals.
Wow.
And that really sticks out, but that doesn't include his being on the field during Champions League matches, where against in the knockout stages, they did surrender some goals while he was on the field. But my main point, and what I want to get to, I don't want to throw out too many numbers, but in the earlier part of the season, there were a lot more goals being surrendered. And, I don't think it's just the fact that Virgil van Dijk is back there. I think maybe having an experienced defender to work with, and the combination of a youth defender who appears to be somebody that's going to develop greatly into maybe a defender that will be, a mainstay on Liverpool's back line for a decade.
No, Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to be a midfielder in Liverpool's midfield for a decade. At the start of the season, you know who nobody is talking about?
Who?
And you're going to give me a blank look when I mention this name. You know a guy named Nathaniel Clyne?
I don't know. Nathaniel
Clyne played damn near every minute of every game last season for Liverpool at right back. And if you had talked to me at this time last year, I would say Nathaniel Clyne will be England's number 1 or 2 right back at the World Cup. Nathaniel Clyne's not going to the World Cup. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I believe, is going to the World Cup. He has come in. Nathaniel Clyne's been out. He was out for probably the first 7 months of the season with a back problem. And I haven't heard anybody mention his name since Trent Alexander-Arnold scored the goal against Hoffenheim that put Liverpool effectively into the Champions League in the qualifying round. I forgot where I was going to go with this, but Alexander-Arnold came in as a stopgap, just a short solution. He and Joe Gomez split right back duties for a while, and all of a sudden, this kid has become.
He took the spot.
Yeah, he took the spot, but it's not even his best position or natural position. Mm-hmm. And this is effectively his first season as a full-time first-team player. He's really good, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And,
Well, the reason I wanted to bring him up is because he's going to be tasked with stopping Ronaldo and Benzema, Bale, and the attacking force of Real Madrid. So his role is so vital in this game because they're going to be under constant pressure. Liverpool is going to be on the attack, and then Trent Alexander-Arnold and the rest of the defense they'll be kind of, there could be many moments where they're facing the Real Madrid attack more or less by themselves as their midfield tracks back and their offense tracks back. And I think how he plays is going to be, like, if he has a great game, then that could be what turns the tide to have Liverpool sort of pull off the upset. And if he doesn't play well, and if he makes even just a couple of mistakes in a couple of moments, that'll be enough for any one of those offensive players for Real Madrid to take advantage and put in a couple of goals.
And he had a couple shaky moments in the knockout rounds. It happens. He's a young player. He's going to make mistakes. Well,
so maybe this is his bam moment where he just shuts them down the whole game.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not.
The mistakes will happen. They might not happen in the final. My key player, Loris Karius, Liverpool's goalkeeper, who goalkeeper's been a problem position for Liverpool since Pepe Reina left in 2013 or 14. I think it was 2013. Karius took the #1 job from Simone Mignolet and has held it basically for the back half of the season and has done quite well. But I can't help thinking of Sven Ulreich, who was Bayern Munich's backup goalkeeper, thrust into the first, into the starting role by Manuel Neuer's injury. And how did Real Madrid get to the final? On just the worst error you could possibly imagine. And Sven Ulreich, just a goalkeeper, they call them howlers, but just a terrible error that he gifted, I think it was Benzema, a goal. And that really, that was the one that put Real Madrid in the final. Loris Karius has been so dependable, and he's been so quiet leading up. Yeah, it makes me nervous for Liverpool. Is this going to be the moment where, at the start of the season, nobody was talking about him being on a team that's in the, one, being Liverpool's starting goalkeeper, two, being on a team that's going deep in the Champions League. And still to this day, Liverpool is linked with moves for another goalkeeper. So what I'm saying is that his level, or how we perceive him to be, is one that he's due for a mistake.
Well, and I think we knew this, that Liverpool is the underdog in this game.
Yeah.
But it's not just that they're the underdog. It just seems like too many things maybe have to go right. The defense has to hold up. Mo Salah has to find space. And you have to hope that, Real Madrid's attack just isn't able to find the back of the net for whatever reason. The ball just doesn't bounce their way. And it's maybe just asking too much. But if they can pull it off, and Mo Salah can continue this magical run of a season and kind of have some ultimate trophy to show for it at the end of the year in a Champions League final, what will it mean for Liverpool's legacy as a club? I mean, they've won the Champions League before. They won the European Cup before. Is it maybe just for this specific team and these specific players, it's their moment more than it's a legendary moment for Liverpool as a club?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
For these players, yeah, it's their moment. Nobody expected this, that they would be at this stage of the competition. Just nobody saw it coming at the beginning of the season. So, yeah, for these players, it's really it's a moment to shout, "We're great." I look at their lineup and I still can't believe that, we could be saying Sadio Mane, Champions League winner. Roberto Firmino, Champions League winner. No, these are good players, don't get me wrong. Mo Salah, Champions League winner. But, I never expected them to be at this level. Now, for the club itself, I would see this and the to an extent the 2005 title as anomalies, because both these teams, I think, in 2005, I think they finished 5th in the Premier League. This season, Liverpool finished 4th, or was it 3rd? I think it was 4th.
Yeah, they're in Champions League.
Yeah.
Contention.
You know, these aren't teams like the Liverpool teams of the 70s and 80s.
Sure.
Were just dominating in England and Europe. And, you know, there were no questions about those teams. This Liverpool team, they're still 30 points behind Man City, the champions. You know, they have a long way to go before they, as a unit, develop into one of Liverpool's all-time great teams. But winning the Champions League is something that you can't take it away from them. It's the pinnacle of the game in Europe. But yeah, I still would see it as something of an outlier.
Right.
It's still a work in progress until they're reaching the levels of your Real Madrids and Bayern Munichs.
I pretty much agree with everything you just said, and I would
thanks.
only add that it'd basically just be some sort of gift of a season and gift of a run.
Yeah.
Something that, you know, they make songs about, and
Yeah.
a legendary, just singular season. Because, you know, it wouldn't surprise me not only if they didn't make it this far next season, but also if, you know, Mo Salah doesn't score 30 goals next season and he drops off, even if it's just slightly, you know, and he drops down to, say, 20 goals. I mean, it makes that big of a difference because of how important he's been.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can't expect these types of things to happen. So it's kind of as a big moment for the players, and it's just kind of one of those times as a fan where you realize that a special thing is happening.
Yeah.
And you kind of are paying even more attention, even as a diehard fan, you're just even more invested.
And that's something Liverpool has, is momentum. They have this wave of support that you can, you know, especially at Anfield, but you can see how it just drives the players to something a little bit greater than anybody expected they could be.
Right. Speaking of Anfield, Liverpool was fined again or something with UEFA after Champions League semifinal.
Okay.
Anyway, predictions. You don't like predictions, but you said we should do predictions today, which kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
But do you want me to go first? Or you want you to go? Or
You can go first.
All right. I think Real Madrid wins the game 3-2, but not 3-2 in a close way. I think that Real Madrid will be up 3-1 at some point, and Liverpool's second goal won't come until like after the 85th minute. And even when they score and they'll run to the back of net, they'll grab the ball and run to the center circle, but it just won't feel like they're going to get another one in. And it'll be, you know, a 3-1 lead for Real Madrid, and they'll be very much in control, and it'll just be Liverpool trying to get something going. You know, Mo Salah can't figure it out, and they're just banging their head against the wall for, you know, 80 minutes until they finally push one across, but it'll be too little too late. And Real Madrid will win their third straight and take their place as, you know, in the conversation as one of the greatest runs for a club in the history of European soccer.
I'm going to say Real Madrid either 3-1 or 3-2.
Okay. I think yesterday you said something like 5-0.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No. Just making that up. Real Madrid will score at least 3.
I agree.
And Liverpool will get 1, maybe 2. But I have a hard time seeing Liverpool winning this game.
Yeah.
For reasons I've explained throughout today's podcast.
I agree. Definitely a long shot for Liverpool. I see you've stood up. Marcus has stood up in the studio.
Yeah.
Because I think we're going to hit one more topic before we sign off. Do you want me to set it up for you, or do you just want to take it? But before we do that, is there anything else you'd like to say about the Champions League final?
No, we beat it to death.
Yeah, I think so. Now to the most important part of the podcast.
New Arsenal manager, Unai Emery, replacing Arsene Wenger. You want to ask me the question?
Marcus, how do you feel about this signing by Arsenal?
It makes me neither warm nor fuzzy inside, but it's probably the best of all available options in terms of the budgetary constraints and the new structure Arsenal has in place of who's really calling the shots. Yeah, it's about as good as Arsenal could have done, and the fan in me will just take it with no great enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to say, I guess, at this point, but what timetable do you think he has to, say, be in Champions League? Like, if he goes next season, doesn't qualify for Champions League, and then goes 2 seasons, doesn't qualify for Champions League, is he going to be out after that short of amount of time?
Unai Emery signed a 3-year contract.
Uh-huh.
I say he's out after 2 years.
So you predict he will not live out his contract?
No. He strikes me as a guy who comes in, he's like a placeholder. He's replacing the guy, Wenger.
Right.
And if you had asked anybody at Arsenal before 6 months ago, if you had asked anybody at Arsenal, who do you want to replace Wenger? Nobody would have said Unai Emery. That was, he kind of came out of left field earlier this week. But, yeah, I see him just kind of as a placeholder until somebody who Arsenal's new troika of shot callers, until they find the guy that they really, really want and will chase him for a year or two.
Yeah.
I see Emery just... He's there to do the job as well as he can until Arsenal gets whoever they really, really want, whoever that might be.
And also from a coach's perspective, I mean, I'm sure there are some out there, but I would imagine most coaches don't really want to follow such a huge name.
No.
And it's kind of like, well, I'll let the situation get a little worse, and then I'll come in and fix it all.
It's a poison chalice. So good luck to him. I fear for his hairline. I was watching his press conference today, and he's got a mane of hair that is just now starting to recede. 2 years, he'll have a buzz cut, and
Poor guy.
Well,
he'll be okay.
This is the life he chose. So, good
well,
luck.
I guess we don't have any matches of the weekend because we talked about our one match of the weekend for...
Yep.
It's been a while now. So thanks for joining us. We will react to the Champions League final next week, as well as, I guess, some USA Soccer news. We'll probably...
No, we won't.
No, nothing. More World Cup and extensive World Cup coverage to come. Make sure you keep it here for all of that as June approaches. If you want to follow the podcast, you're listening on YouTube right now, be sure to go to iTunes and listen and search NESN to follow our iTunes page where you can find all NESN podcasts. Thank you for joining us, and see you next week.